Welcome to the Soul Anchor Podcast. I am your host, Vidal Moreno, and your guide as we take a voyage together on this ship we can call the human experience. Where did I get the idea for the name of the podcast? Well, I have always been taught by Bible teachers that the fish was an early symbol used by Christians to represent themselves. Through the teaching of musical artist and Bible teacher Michael Card, I've come to know that archaeologists have also found an abundance of anchors in the images found in the Roman catacombs and other places where early Christians gathered. Of course, it is entirely possible that early Christians could have used the symbol to remind themselves that many of the apostles were fishermen, or maybe to remind themselves of Mark 1:17 in the ESV, which says, "And Jesus said to them, 'Follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men.'" Certainly, boats and fishing in the Sea of Galilee was an important part of Jesus' brief ministry, but others believe it may have something to do with Hebrews 6:19. Once again, this is from the ESV. "We have this as a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul, a hope that enters into the inner place behind the curtain, where Jesus has gone as a forerunner on our behalf, having become a high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek." So let's unpack this verse for a few minutes. In this verse, hope is represented by an anchor. Now, isn't that interesting? The soul could be a metaphor for a ship, which could itself be a representation of the world, your life, your circumstances, or in this case, our voyage together. According to Wikipedia, an anchor is a device normally made of metal used to connect a vessel to the bed of a body of water to prevent the craft from drifting due to wind or current. So we have an anchor for our soul. But it's not just an anchor. It is a sure and steadfast anchor. It is an anchor that is firm and can be trusted to do its job. So what is this anchor representing? It is our hope in someone who is able to enter the inner place behind the curtain. What we believe about this person is what gives us that hope. It is what gives us the anchor that our ship, our soul, holds on to while the ship tosses to and fro. This hope is based on our faith in Christ. So what does the author mean by the fact that our hope enters into the inner place behind the curtain? Keep in mind that the author is writing to a group of Christian Jews. He is going to use metaphors that they would be familiar with. Every Jew was familiar with the layout of the tabernacle and the later temple. The tabernacle was a tent where God had chosen to live with the Jewish people in the Old Testament. This tent had two sections: the holy place, where the priests would perform most of their duties like burning incense, and the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies was where the presence of God could be found with the Ark of the Covenant as his footstool. The Holy of Holies was separated from the holy place by a curtain, a veil. Only the high priest could enter into the Holy of Holies once a year in the Day of Atonement. It was the most sacred place in the Jewish world, and it represented for these people being in the presence of God. This soul anchor gives us the right to enter into the Holy of Holies, where only the high priest could go, because of our faith in Christ. The vast majority of Jewish believers went their entire lives never imagining that they would ever enter into the Holy of Holies. For them, they could meet God face to face only in their imaginations, since most people would never be a high priest. For the high priest, it was a dangerous place, because if they were not careful to go through the proper rituals, they could be struck down dead, as the first couple of high priests were in Leviticus 10. Our high priest is Jesus Christ. The anchor does not work if it just enters the water. It must lodge itself deep into the rocks below. The rocks are the truth of who we are in Christ. It is the belief in the fact that Jesus played a dual role of high priest and sacrifice. Because of his sacrifice, we have access to God. We do not need an intermediary. The last bit of this verse gets into a common theme that the Hebrew author visits often in his book. It is a bit strange, and we don't have time to ponder it in this episode, but here goes. Jesus is our high priest forever, quote, after the order of Melchizedek, unquote. Melchizedek was the king of ancient Jerusalem that Abraham met. He was unique according to the Bible in that he was a prophet and priest and a king. Until Jesus came, no other person had ever fulfilled all three offices in one person. So we will embark on our journey, and we will visit many places. Some of our stops may be verse-by-verse studies of Bible passages. Some of our visits will be book studies. And one of our most exciting visits will be to the island of Christian history. This island has become a passion to me. All along the way, we will be anchored to some very solid rock. That anchor, the soul anchor, will be tethered to our faith in the finished work of Jesus. It will be anchored to the fact that we Christians have a relationship with the triune God. Through the work of the Son, we have the power in the Spirit to go past the veil into the Holy of Holies and have a conversation with the Father. This gives us hope that we need to keep going through the storms of life. He is our soul anchor. We will end this podcast with the lyrics to the song that introduced me to this symbol, Soul Anchor, by one of my favorite artists, Michael Card. Though the wind is raging all around, and even though the waves may rise, there's a place of stillness in the storm, and you can find it if you will believe. It is a soul anchor. Hold on to the hope. It is a soul anchor. Just hold on to your courage. Before we call, he answers us with hope. We are so sure of what we're waiting for, and certain of things we do not see. For we are told by the one who cannot lie, and in this hope is our security. It is a soul anchor. Hold on to the hope. It is a soul anchor. Just hold on to your courage. Before we call, he answers us with hope. Till we meet again.